The diner was bustling with the energy of Christmas Eve. Outside, snow fell gently, covering the streets in a soft white blanket, and the lights in the windows glowed warmly against the cold night. Inside, the scent of fresh bread, roasted meat, and sweet desserts filled the air. It was a small-town diner, familiar and cozy, where everyone knew each other, but tonight it felt extra special, almost magical, because it was Christmas Eve. The tables were crowded, laughter bounced off the walls, and the soft hum of Christmas music played in the background. Among the staff, one waitress moved quickly yet carefully, weaving through the tables with a friendly smile. She was small in stature but had a presence that made people feel comfortable instantly. Her movements were smooth and natural, a mix of practiced skill and genuine care. She didn't just serve food. She made sure each person felt seen and appreciated. She noticed things others might not. An empty cup, a frown, or a child's shy smile, and she would adjust, always attentive, always kind. As she carried a tray full of steaming plates, her eyes landed on a table near the window. An elderly couple was sitting quietly, their coats pulled tightly around them, their faces slightly weary. Unlike the other diners who were laughing or chatting in groups, they seemed calm and reserved. They didn't speak much to each other or anyone else. They just looked out at the snow falling softly beyond the glass. Something about them caught her attention. It wasn't just their quietness, but the way they seemed to be holding on to each other. The gentle smiles they shared. The subtle gestures that spoke of a long life together. The waitress approached their table with a warm smile. "Good evening," she said softly, trying not to startle them. "Welcome. Can I get you anything to drink while you look at the menu?" The man looked up, his eyes kind but tired. "Just water, please," he said quietly. The woman nodded, and her smile was gentle. "Yes, water is fine," she added. There was a softness in her voice that made the waitress want to do something more for them. She nodded, making a mental note to come back quickly with their drinks. As she walked away, she thought about how busy the diner was. Tables were full, orders were flying in, and the kitchen was buzzing with activity. But she couldn't shake the feeling that these two people needed more than just food. They needed attention, a small gesture of kindness. Sometimes it wasn't the big things that mattered, she reminded herself, but the little ones. She returned with their glasses of water, placing them gently on the table. "Here you go," she said. "I'll be back to take your order whenever you're ready." The couple thanked her politely, and she gave them a nod before moving on to the next table. She noticed how they seemed to glance around at the diner, almost taking in every detail, the way someone might when they didn't get out often. There was a quiet dignity in the way they carried themselves, and it made her heart warm. Even among the chaos of the busy diner, she felt a pull to make their evening special. The night continued, and she moved between tables, taking orders, delivering food, and keeping the atmosphere cheerful. She laughed with the children who came in with their families, complimented the elderly regulars, and shared a few jokes with the kitchen staff. But she kept an eye on the elderly couple, noticing small things. A fork slightly shaking in the man's hand, the woman adjusting her scarf, a plate left mostly untouched. It bothered her to see them eating so little when there was so much on offer. Finally, during a brief lull, she approached their table again. "Excuse me," she said gently. "I noticed you haven't had much to eat. Can I bring you something special? Maybe some of our fresh bread and a warm dessert?" The woman looked surprised. "Oh, that's very kind, but we don't want to trouble you," she said. The man shook his head slowly. "We're fine, really," he added. The waitress smiled warmly. "It's no trouble at all. It's Christmas Eve, and I just want to make sure you're comfortable. Please, allow me." After a moment of hesitation, they nodded. She hurried back to the kitchen, explaining quickly to the chef to prepare a small extra meal for the couple, something warm and comforting. While waiting, she arranged a small candle on their table, giving off a soft glow, and brought over 2 extra blankets for their chairs. It wasn't much, but it was the thought that counted. When she returned with the food, she placed it carefully in front of them. "I hope you enjoy this," she said softly, her eyes full of warmth. The couple looked at the plates, their eyes widening slightly in surprise. "This is very thoughtful," the woman said quietly. "Thank you." The man's hand brushed the waitress's in a small, grateful gesture. "You are very kind," he said. She smiled, feeling a sense of satisfaction that went beyond just doing her job. "It's my pleasure," she said. "Merry Christmas." They began to eat, slowly at first, savoring the warmth of the food. She watched them with a quiet happiness, glad to see them smile. The man told a small story about his childhood Christmases, and the woman added little memories of family traditions. The waitress listened, laughing softly at their anecdotes, making them feel as though they were the only people in the diner. It was a simple moment, yet it carried the warmth of human connection. Even as the diner filled with more customers, she made sure to check back on them regularly, refilling water, offering more bread, and sharing smiles. She didn't care about the rush or the stress. This was her chance to make someone's Christmas Eve a little brighter, and the couple responded with gratitude and gentle conversation, enjoying the small comforts she provided. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the town in quiet peace, while inside, the diner was alive with laughter, music, and the scent of holiday meals. For a few moments, it felt like the world outside didn't exist, and all that mattered was kindness and connection. The waitress had no idea that this simple act of caring would leave a lasting impact, not just on the couple, but on herself as well. By the time the couple finished their meal, their plates empty and hearts warmed, they looked at the waitress with genuine appreciation. "You've made this Christmas Eve very special," the woman said. The man nodded in agreement. "Yes, thank you for your kindness. It means more than you know." The waitress smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "I'm glad you enjoyed it," she said. "That's all I could hope for." As she walked back to her station, she glanced over at them one last time. They were quiet again, holding hands across the table, smiling at each other, and perhaps reflecting on the joy of simple human connection. She returned to the rest of the diners with a heart full of warmth, knowing that sometimes, the smallest gestures can make the biggest difference. The night went on, but that table remained in her mind. Even in the chaos of a busy Christmas Eve, she felt a sense of calm and fulfillment. She didn't do it for recognition or reward. She did it because she cared, because she saw two people who deserved a little extra warmth and attention. It was a reminder of why she loved her job, why she cherished moments of genuine human kindness, and why even in a world that often felt rushed and busy, simple acts could make Christmas magic real. Even as the diner continued to bustle, the waitress couldn't stop thinking about the elderly couple in the corner. Their quiet presence lingered in her mind, a reminder of how simple kindness could create a moment of comfort for someone. She moved through the tables with practiced ease, taking orders and serving meals, but her heart kept returning to them. Every now and then, she glanced their way to see if they needed anything, and each time, their gentle smiles seemed to thank her silently. The couple's plates were mostly empty, yet the warmth in their eyes spoke louder than words. The waitress knew she had to do something more, something that could make their Christmas Eve even brighter. She remembered that the diner had a small assortment of desserts prepared especially for the holiday, some extra bread and even a few treats that had been set aside for special guests. She decided to bring a little more to the couple's table, something comforting that could make them feel even more cared for. She approached the kitchen quickly, explaining to the chef that she wanted to prepare a small extra meal for a quiet couple in the corner. The chef, familiar with her attention to detail and kindness, smiled and nodded. Together, they put together a warm plate of bread, a small portion of mashed potatoes with gravy, a tender roast slice, and a sweet dessert topped with a small sprig of holly to make it festive. The smell was rich and inviting, and the waitress felt a sense of anticipation, imagining how happy the couple would be when they saw it. Carrying the tray carefully, she returned to their table, placing each item with a soft, deliberate touch. "I hope this makes your evening a little warmer," she said gently. "Merry Christmas." The woman's eyes widened slightly as she looked at the spread before them. "This is so thoughtful," she said quietly, her voice filled with gratitude. The man reached out and touched the waitress's hand lightly. "You are truly kind," he said. The waitress smiled, feeling a wave of warmth and fulfillment. "I just want to make sure you enjoy tonight," she said. "Sometimes a little comfort goes a long way." They began to eat slowly, savoring each bite, their expressions softening as the warmth of the food and the atmosphere settled around them. The woman shared a story about how she and her partner had spent many Christmases together, often keeping it simple and meaningful rather than extravagant. The man added little details, remembering small acts of kindness they had received from neighbors and friends in past years. The waitress listened intently, her heart swelling with a sense of connection. It was moments like these that reminded her why she loved her work so much, the ability to make a positive impact, even in small ways. As the night went on, she continued to check on the couple periodically. She refilled their water glasses, offered extra napkins, and even brought a warm blanket for the woman when she noticed her shivering slightly. The couple expressed their gratitude each time, their smiles and kind words making her feel appreciated in a way that went beyond tips or recognition. It was a genuine human connection, simple but powerful. While tending to other tables, she overheard conversations from other diners about family traditions, gift-giving, and holiday memories. The air was filled with laughter, clinking silverware, and the occasional cheer from children excited about the holiday. Yet, despite the busy environment, she kept the couple in her thoughts, ensuring they never felt neglected or forgotten. She wanted them to feel the warmth of Christmas not just through food, but through attention and care. At one point, the couple caught her eye and gestured for her to come over. "You have a gift for making people feel welcome," the woman said softly. "Not everyone is like you, especially on a night as busy as this." The waitress shook her head gently. "It's nothing special," she said. "I just want people to feel at home. Everyone deserves a little comfort, especially tonight." The man nodded, his eyes kind and appreciative. "Your heart shows in everything you do," he said. "We've been reminded of how rare and wonderful that is." The waitress felt a warmth that went beyond the physical comfort of food. There was a connection forming, quiet but significant, rooted in shared human decency and compassion. She realized that in a world often focused on material wealth and accomplishments, these small acts of care carried more meaning than anything money could buy. As the evening progressed, more customers came and went, yet she kept returning to the couple, making sure they were comfortable, refilling drinks, and sharing brief conversations. They talked about favorite holiday memories, small joys in life, and the importance of kindness. The waitress listened, laughed softly, and shared in their joy. The diner, bustling with holiday energy, felt intimate in their little corner, as if the noise and chaos outside didn't exist. Eventually, the couple finished their meal, their plates empty and their hearts warm. The woman reached out and placed her hand over the waitress's. "Thank you for everything tonight," she said. "You have made this Christmas Eve truly special for us." The man added, "Yes, your kindness has reminded us of what the holidays are really about. It's not about gifts or decorations, but about care, attention, and compassion." The waitress smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "I'm so glad," she said. "That's all I could hope for." As she walked back to her station, she glanced over at them one last time. They were holding hands across the table, sharing quiet smiles, reflecting on the warmth and joy of the evening. For the waitress, it was a moment that would stay with her forever. A reminder of why simple acts of kindness mattered so much, and how they could create ripples of happiness that extended far beyond one evening. The rest of the night passed quickly. She continued serving other diners, laughing with children, listening to stories from regular customers, and ensuring everyone felt welcome. Yet, her heart remained with the elderly couple, feeling a quiet joy in knowing that she had made a difference, however small, in someone's life. Christmas Eve was not just about the busy rush or the festive decorations. It was about connection, warmth, and the human spirit shining through, even in a small-town diner. As the night drew to a close and the last few customers trickled out into the snowy streets, she took a moment to tidy up and reflect. The elderly couple had left earlier, quietly and without fanfare, but their presence lingered in her thoughts. She realized that the true magic of Christmas wasn't in the grandeur or the presents, but in the little moments where people reached out to one another with genuine care. And tonight, she had been lucky enough to witness it firsthand and be a part of it. The diner was quieter now, the Christmas Eve rush slowly fading. Snow continued to fall outside, covering the streets in a sparkling white layer, and the warm light from the windows made the falling snow look like tiny golden flakes. The waitress moved through the tables, clearing plates, collecting cups, and offering final words of cheer to the remaining customers. Her heart was still with the elderly couple who had come in earlier. Their gentle smiles and quiet gratitude had left a mark on her, one that she knew she would remember for a long time. Later, as she helped the manager count the remaining cash and tips, the topic of the couple came up. The manager's eyes twinkled, and he leaned closer. "Did you notice that couple in the corner earlier?" he asked. The waitress nodded, smiling. "Yes, I tried to make sure they were comfortable and enjoyed their meal." The manager chuckled softly. "They weren't just ordinary people. They're billionaires in disguise." For a moment, she froze, unsure she had heard correctly. "Billionaires?" she repeated, her voice quiet. "Here? Really?" He nodded. "Yes, they like to come to small places like this sometimes, just to see how people treat others without knowing who they are. It's a way to remind themselves of what's real and genuine." Her heart raced, but it wasn't because of the money or status. It was because of the realization that her small gestures had been noticed by people she never would have expected. She felt a mix of humility and amazement. She hadn't done anything with this in mind. She had simply cared, because it felt right. The memory of their gratitude filled her mind. The soft smiles, the gentle words of thanks, the way the man had touched her hand lightly. It all came rushing back. She realized that kindness didn't need recognition, yet it was a beautiful thing when the people we helped were unexpectedly connected to something greater. It wasn't about fame or reward. It was about the impact one person could make in someone else's life. The manager noticed her thoughtful expression and smiled. "You know, many people would have ignored them, or simply done their job without that extra effort. But you went above and beyond. That's why they remembered you." She shook her head softly, still processing. "I didn't do it for that," she said. "I just wanted them to feel comfortable and happy. And that's exactly why it mattered," the manager said. "Genuine kindness is rare. It doesn't come from expecting something in return. It comes from the heart. And you showed that tonight." Later, as she continued tidying the diner, she found herself thinking about how simple gestures could create profound moments. A smile, a warm plate of food, a little extra attention. These things mattered more than she had realized. The elderly couple had walked into the diner as strangers, yet through her actions, they had felt welcomed, cared for, and remembered. That simple human connection had become something meaningful. As she closed up the diner with the manager, she noticed a small envelope slipped under one of the tables where the couple had been sitting. Curious, she picked it up and opened it. Inside was a note and a small token of appreciation. The note read, "Your kindness made our Christmas Eve unforgettable. Thank you for reminding us that the world still has genuine hearts. You are a true gift to humanity." There was also a card with a modest amount of money enclosed, enough to take a small vacation or treat herself to something special. The gesture was simple, thoughtful, and unexpected. She held the note in her hands, feeling tears welling in her eyes. It wasn't about the money or the reward. It was about knowing that her actions had touched someone's life deeply. She felt a connection to the couple that went beyond the brief evening they had shared. It was a bond formed through kindness, humility, and understanding. Walking home through the snow-covered streets, she reflected on the night. She thought about the warmth of the diner, the laughter, the smells of freshly cooked food, and the simple joy of human interaction. She realized that the essence of Christmas wasn't in the decorations, the gifts, or the festivities, but in these quiet moments of connection and compassion. She felt grateful to have been part of something so meaningful, even if she hadn't known the full story at the time. Over the next few days, the experience lingered in her thoughts. She noticed small changes in herself, too. She became more attentive to the little details, more aware of the subtle signs when someone needed comfort or kindness. She began to see opportunities to make a difference in ways she hadn't considered before. It wasn't just about grand gestures. It was about the everyday moments that added warmth to someone's life. The elderly couple never revealed themselves publicly, choosing to maintain their anonymity. Yet their actions had a ripple effect. The diner staff talked about it for weeks, sharing the story quietly among themselves. Customers who heard the tale felt inspired to act with more kindness in their own lives. The waitress became a quiet symbol of the power of human empathy, a reminder that one person could impact the world without seeking fame or reward. Months later, she would remember that Christmas Eve vividly. The memory of the couple, the warmth in their eyes, and the note they left behind stayed with her. It became a story she shared with others, not to boast, but to illustrate the value of compassion and the lasting effects of simple, thoughtful actions. It reminded her that everyone she encountered had a story, a life, and a heart that could be touched by small acts of kindness. She understood that real happiness didn't come from recognition or wealth, but from connection and empathy. That night had shown her that generosity, when given freely and sincerely, created bonds that were priceless and unforgettable. The elderly couple, unknowingly, had given her a gift far beyond measure, the affirmation that her heart and her actions mattered. Even as life continued with its daily routines, the memory of that night stayed alive in her thoughts. Whenever she served a table, she remembered to smile genuinely, to listen attentively, and to offer care in small ways. The diner became not just a place to work, but a place to spread kindness, one gesture at a time. And every time she glanced at the small snow-covered streets outside, she remembered the quiet, magical Christmas Eve when her small acts of care had touched the hearts of people who, despite their wealth, reminded her of the true meaning of generosity and human connection. The story of the Christmas Eve visit began to spread quietly through the town. Friends and family of the waitress heard bits and pieces, stories shared by those who had been at the diner that night. The way she had treated the elderly couple, with genuine warmth and care, became a talking point. Some were impressed by her dedication, others simply inspired to look at their own actions more closely. Word of her kindness reached beyond the small diner, slowly making its way into the local community. Even without knowing the couple's true identity, people noticed how she went above and beyond for her customers. It wasn't just the extra meal or the warm blankets. It was the attentiveness, the smiles, and the patience she showed during the busiest night of the year. Many who heard about it were reminded that simple acts of kindness could make a lasting impact. It became a story people repeated quietly to their neighbors, about a waitress who treated everyone with dignity and care, no matter who they were. One morning, a few weeks after Christmas, the waitress was surprised to receive a phone call at the diner. A polite, gentle voice asked for her, and when she answered, the voice introduced itself as the woman from the Christmas Eve visit. She spoke warmly, recalling the evening and expressing gratitude again for the attention and kindness the waitress had shown. The call was unexpected, yet comforting, as if a bridge had been quietly built between them that night. The couple wanted to thank her personally, and while she felt a little nervous, she agreed to meet them at a quiet cafe in town. When she arrived, the couple greeted her with warm smiles, their faces familiar yet striking in a way she hadn't realized at the diner. They spoke gently, expressing how her actions had stayed with them long after that Christmas Eve. The attention, thoughtfulness, and care she had shown had reminded them of the goodness in the world, despite their wealth and influence. They appreciated her sincerity, the fact that she had not known who they were and yet treated them with the same respect and warmth she would offer anyone. During their conversation, the couple explained a little about their philosophy. They preferred to live quietly, often visiting small towns and local businesses anonymously. It was a way for them to see the genuine kindness in people, and to appreciate life without the barriers that wealth and recognition often created. They spoke of how rare it was to find someone who acted with pure intention, and how refreshing it had been to experience it firsthand. The waitress listened, feeling humbled and touched by their words. They didn't come to give her gifts or reward her. They simply wanted her to know the difference she had made. Yet, their gesture of gratitude included a small token, a scholarship opportunity, a fund to support her future goals, and encouragement to continue following her dreams. It wasn't a lavish reward, but a meaningful way to show that the impact of her actions could extend beyond that single evening. She felt a mix of disbelief and humility, understanding that what she had done out of kindness had opened doors she had never imagined. The conversation lasted hours, filled with gentle laughter, shared stories, and reflections on human connection. They talked about their own experiences growing up, the lessons they had learned about giving without expecting, and the joy of helping others in quiet, unseen ways. The waitress shared her own experiences, her challenges, and her dreams for the future. It became a meeting not just of gratitude, but of mutual understanding and respect, a bond that transcended the ordinary. After their meeting, the story of her kindness began to reach a wider audience. Friends, family, and even local news outlets picked up on the story, highlighting the impact of her actions and the way she treated the elderly couple with dignity and care. Social media began to share the tale, focusing on the human connection, the authenticity of her kindness, and the beauty of simple gestures that create lasting memories. The story inspired others to reflect on their own actions, encouraging people to look for opportunities to help and care for those around them. The waitress herself remained humble throughout the attention. She did not seek fame or recognition. She simply wanted to help others and make people feel valued. The attention was unexpected, yet it allowed her to see the ripple effect of her kindness. Every story, every mention, every smile she received in response reminded her that human connection mattered, that the smallest acts could carry enormous significance. As the days passed, she continued to work at the diner, but her perspective had subtly shifted. She noticed more details in her surroundings, more opportunities to help or brighten someone's day. She greeted customers with extra warmth, listened more attentively, and found satisfaction in the small, meaningful moments. Each interaction became a chance to extend kindness, inspired by the way her actions had touched the elderly couple and the broader community. The elderly couple kept in touch occasionally, sending notes, messages, or small reminders that they remembered her and appreciated her heart. These gestures were not grand, but they carried deep meaning, reinforcing the connection that had begun on a snowy Christmas Eve. She cherished these moments, understanding that genuine human care could create bonds that lasted far longer than a single night. Her story began to influence others at the diner as well. Co-workers observed her attentiveness and began to mirror her approach, making the workplace more positive and compassionate. Customers noticed the friendly atmosphere and responded with gratitude, creating a cycle of warmth and appreciation that extended beyond the Christmas season. It was a reminder that kindness was contagious, and one person's actions could inspire a community. Through it all, she remained grounded, remembering that her actions had not been about recognition, reward, or wealth. They had been about seeing people, valuing them, and making them feel cared for. The elderly couple had reminded her that human connection was priceless, and the ripple effect of one genuine act could be far-reaching. It was a lesson she carried with her every day, guiding her interactions and shaping her understanding of what truly mattered. In time, the memory of that Christmas Eve became a cornerstone of her life. Whenever she faced challenges or felt the weight of the world pressing in, she thought of the couple's warm smiles, their gentle gratitude, and the quiet magic of that evening. It reminded her that even in a busy, chaotic world, moments of kindness could shine brightly, leaving lasting impressions. She felt empowered by the knowledge that her actions had created a difference, however small, and that she had been part of something meaningful. The story of the waitress and the elderly couple continued to be shared quietly, serving as an example of the power of compassion, the beauty of human connection, and the lasting impact of simple acts of care. It was a tale that reminded people to notice others, to extend warmth and attention, and to understand that generosity was not measured by wealth or status, but by the heart. And for the waitress, it became a lifelong inspiration, a guiding principle that shaped her daily actions and reminded her that true kindness was its own reward. Time passed, but the memory of that Christmas Eve remained fresh in the waitress's mind. Even months later, she thought of the elderly couple and the quiet joy of that evening. It had become more than just a memory. It was a part of who she was now. The small gestures she had made, the warmth she had shared, and the genuine attention she had given had grown into a story that shaped her perspective on life. She realized that her actions, no matter how small, could create a lasting impact, and that understanding stayed with her every day. The diner continued to be a hub of the community. She worked there with the same dedication as before, but now with a renewed sense of purpose. Every customer, whether familiar or new, received her attention and kindness. She noticed details others might miss, gestures that brought comfort, and moments that could brighten someone's day. Her smile became a little warmer, her patience a little deeper, and her care more intentional. People responded to her naturally, enjoying the sense of genuine concern and warmth she offered. Occasionally, she received letters and small notes from people who had heard about her kindness. Some wrote to say how inspiring it was, others to share stories of their own experiences with giving or receiving compassion. Each note reminded her that acts of kindness had a ripple effect far beyond what she could see. She placed them carefully in a drawer at home, revisiting them on quiet evenings, feeling grateful for the subtle ways her life had intertwined with the lives of others. The elderly couple stayed in touch, too. They sent letters, sometimes short, sometimes longer, filled with memories, reflections, and gratitude. They didn't contact her for recognition or reward. They reached out because they remembered the genuine heart she had shown that night. Occasionally, they invited her to lunch or dinner, but more often, the correspondence was simply a warm exchange of thoughts, reminding her that the connection they had formed was enduring and meaningful. One day, the diner held a small community event for a local charity. The waitress was asked to help organize and serve, a task she accepted with enthusiasm. She brought the same care and attention to the event that she had shown the elderly couple months earlier. Children laughed and played, families enjoyed meals, and everyone felt welcomed. She noticed small details, refilling cups, comforting a shy child, or offering extra treats to those who might feel left out. Her actions were quiet but deeply felt by the community. During the event, one of the volunteers quietly mentioned hearing about her Christmas Eve story. The volunteer said how inspiring it had been, how it reminded them to be more attentive and compassionate in their own lives. The waitress listened, feeling a gentle warmth in her heart. It was never about recognition, but seeing the impact of her actions in others made her understand that kindness could create a chain reaction, touching lives she would never meet. At home, she reflected often on what had happened. The simplicity of that Christmas Eve, the act of noticing someone in need, offering comfort and caring without expectation, had left a mark not just on the couple, but on her own understanding of the world. She realized that true generosity was about giving from the heart, without anticipating rewards or acknowledgement. That evening had become a lesson she carried into every aspect of her life. In the months that followed, she found herself more aware of opportunities to help others. A neighbor struggling with groceries, a friend facing a difficult day, a stranger needing directions. She offered small gestures that made a difference. It wasn't always recognized or appreciated openly, but that didn't matter. She understood now that the value of kindness was in the action itself, in the warmth shared and the comfort given. The diner remained a place of connection. Regulars began to notice the change in atmosphere, a subtle warmth that radiated through the staff. The other waiters and waitresses observed her attention to detail, her willingness to listen, and her genuine care. Over time, they began to mirror her behavior, creating an environment where everyone felt seen, valued, and welcomed. The impact of her actions spread quietly, influencing the community and reinforcing the lesson that small gestures of compassion could grow into a culture of kindness. One quiet evening, while closing up, she remembered the elderly couple and smiled softly. The snow had begun to fall again, just like that Christmas Eve. She imagined them, perhaps sitting together, sharing quiet moments of warmth and reflection. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, understanding that her actions had created a lasting memory, a bond that endured beyond the brief encounter. The knowledge that her kindness had mattered, even in ways she could not see, brought a gentle peace. Her story, though not widely known at first, began to inspire others. Friends shared it quietly, local news outlets covered it, and social media posts highlighted the simple yet powerful acts she had done. People were drawn not to the fame of the elderly couple, but to the authenticity of her actions. It reminded everyone that true generosity was not measured by wealth or status, but by the heart and the willingness to care. The waitress continued to live her life with humility and grace. She worked at the diner, helped her neighbors, and supported her friends. She took opportunities to extend kindness wherever she could, understanding that every small act mattered. The memory of that Christmas Eve, the gentle smiles, and the words of gratitude she received stayed with her, guiding her actions and shaping her understanding of what truly mattered in life. Years later, she would tell the story to others, not to boast, but to inspire. She would explain how noticing someone in need, offering warmth and attention, and caring without expectation could create ripples that extended far beyond a single moment. She shared how a single evening of genuine kindness had touched lives, created lasting connections, and reminded her of the enduring value of empathy. It was a story of human connection, compassion, and the quiet power of caring for others. As she looked back on her life, she understood that the true gifts of that Christmas Eve were not material. They were the bonds formed, the gratitude expressed, and the understanding that small, thoughtful actions could create profound effects. The memory of that evening guided her choices, inspired her actions, and reminded her that even in a world full of distractions, chaos, and challenges, simple kindness could shine brightly and leave a lasting legacy.